what you are essentially talking about here is the United States going to war with NATO. The United States going to war with Europe. I kind of can't believe that I'm going to talk to you about the consequences of invading Greenland, but I am, because you have to take Trump seriously now. Nobody thought that we were going to be invading Venezuela or running their country a few months ago, and now we are. So he says he wants Greenland. He says he's keeping the military option on the table. So let's just talk about what that means.
Republicans are revolting against Trump right now, and it's getting so bad that Trump just declared a national emergency to protect himself. Not to protect the country, to protect himself, because his own party is turning on him. Republican senators are blocking his war plans, voting against him on war powers, refusing to let him invade Greenland, refusing to let him run Venezuela like his personal oil company. And Trump is losing his mind, absolutely melting down, called Susan Collins and screamed profanities at her for 20 minutes because she voted to restrict his war powers, then posted on Truth Social that Republican senators who opposed him should never be elected again. That's the president threatening his own party members, his own senators, people he needs to confirm judges and pass legislation. He's burning bridges with everyone because he's desperate, because he knows the walls are closing in. So he declared national emergency over Venezuelan oil revenue, said it's about national security, but it's really about protecting $2.5 billion that he wants to control, that he wants to use to enrich oil companies, to reward his friends, to fund his authoritarian project. And Republicans are saying no, are standing up, are using their constitutional power to stop him. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Patrick Smith Show to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what actually happened. The Republican revolt started with war powers resolution. Senate voted 52-47 to advance resolution that would restrict Trump from taking military action in Venezuela without congressional authorization. 5 Republican senators joined every Democrat to pass it. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Todd Young. 5 Republicans looked at Trump's Venezuela invasion and said this is unconstitutional. This violates separation of powers. This is president trying to start wars without Congress, and we're stopping it. Share this video with everyone you know, because Trump went ballistic, absolutely ballistic, called Susan Collins personally, got her on phone, and screamed at her. Profanity-laced tirade. Sources told The Hill it was one of most vulgar presidential phone calls they've ever heard about. Trump cursing out sitting Republican senator for voting her conscience, for doing her constitutional duty, for standing up to his authoritarianism. And Collins didn't back down. Told him she voted based on Constitution, based on her oath of office, based on what's right. And Trump just kept screaming, kept threatening, kept trying to intimidate her into changing her vote. But it didn't work. Vote already happened. Resolution passed. Trump's war powers restricted, and he can't do anything about it. Can't threaten Collins into unvoting. Can't make resolution disappear. Can't govern like dictator anymore. At least not on Venezuela. At least not without congressional approval. And that's driving him insane. Because war powers are everything to Trump right now. His whole second-term strategy is built on military action, Venezuela invasion, Greenland threats, Panama Canal plans. All of it requires unilateral presidential war powers, and Congress just took that away. Think about what that means. Senator Chris Murphy explained exactly why this matters, why Greenland invasion would be catastrophic. He said if Trump invades Greenland, he's invading Denmark, and Denmark is NATO ally. NATO treaty says if any member is attacked, all other members must come to their defense. So if Trump invades Greenland, he's starting war with NATO, war with Europe, war with France and Germany and UK, all of our closest allies. Over what? Over Trump wanting real estate, over him seeing Greenland on map and deciding he wants it, over his delusional idea that taking territory makes America great. Murphy said it plainly. We'd be talking about US and France at war with each other over Greenland, American troops fighting French troops, NATO completely destroyed, Western alliance shattered, all because Trump sees world in terms of real estate, wants ballroom, wants big land mass, doesn't care about consequences, doesn't care about alliances, doesn't care about starting World War III, just wants what he wants. And Republicans are finally saying no, are finally standing up, are finally using their power to stop him. Make sure you're subscribed to Patrick Smith Show because Trump's response to this revolt was to declare national emergency, not over actual emergency, over Venezuelan oil money, $2.5 billion in Venezuelan oil revenue held in U.S. accounts. Trump declared national emergency to shield that money from private creditors, said it's critical to national security and regional stability, but that's a lie. It's not about national security, it's about control, about Trump wanting to control billions in oil money, about him wanting to decide who gets it, about him using it to enrich Exxon and Chevron and other oil companies who will take decades to build infrastructure in Venezuela, who will use taxpayer money to do it, who will get rich while regular Americans get nothing. This is Trump's pattern: declare emergency, claim national security, use it to grab power and money. And Republicans are tired of it, tired of emergency declarations for things that aren't emergencies, tired of Trump invoking national security to do whatever he wants, tired of being rubber stamped for authoritarianism. So they're pushing back. Not all of them, not most of them, but enough. 5 senators on war powers, more speaking out privately, more refusing to defend his craziest plans, Republican coalition fracturing, MAGA base angry about broken promises, no new wars promise broken, lower prices promise broken, release Epstein files promise broken, every major campaign promise broken. And Trump thinks he can hold it together by declaring emergencies and screaming at senators, but it's not working. Emergency declaration over oil money doesn't make Republicans fall in line, doesn't make MAGA base forget about broken promises, doesn't make Greenland invasion suddenly constitutional, just makes Trump look more desperate, more authoritarian, more dangerous, and pushes more people away. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Trump's emergency declaration is legally questionable at best. National Emergencies Act gives president power to declare emergencies, but only for actual emergencies, not for protecting oil revenue from creditors, not for shielding corporate profits, not for personal political purposes. Courts are going to look at this, are going to ask, what's the emergency? What's the threat? Why does protecting Venezuelan oil money require emergency powers? And Trump won't have good answers. We'll just say national security over and over. We'll claim regional stability requires it. But judges aren't idiots. They'll see through it. They'll recognize this as power grab, as attempt to control money that should go through normal legal processes. And when courts strike down emergency declaration, Trump will have another failure, another loss, another example of him trying to exceed constitutional authority and getting slapped down. That's pattern now. Trump declares something. Courts say no. Trump appeals. Courts say no again. Trump screams about activist judges. Nothing changes. He keeps losing. And each loss emboldens more Republicans to oppose him. Each judicial rejection shows that fighting Trump is safe, that courts will back you up, that Constitution still matters, and more Republicans start standing up. Susan Collins' vote is particularly significant. She's vulnerable Republican. Up for re-election in 2026. Maine is purple state. Could go either way. Collins knows she needs independent voters to win, needs moderate Republicans, needs people who care about Constitution and rule of law. So voting against Trump's war powers actually helps her politically. Shows she's independent, shows she's principled, shows she won't just rubber stamp authoritarianism, and Trump screaming at her just proves she made right choice. Makes her look brave, makes Trump look weak, makes her more likely to win re-election. Other vulnerable Republicans are watching, seeing that opposing Trump doesn't destroy your career, might actually help it, especially heading into 2026 midterms when Trump's unpopularity could drag down whole party. Republicans in competitive districts and states are calculating, do we stick with Trump and lose, or do we distance ourselves and maybe survive? More are choosing survival, choosing to save their own careers even if it means opposing president, and that destroys Trump's power. Because president without party support can't govern, can't pass legislation, can't confirm nominees, can't implement agenda, just lame duck serving out term. But it's not just war powers where Republicans are revolting, it's everything. Trump tried to fire Jerome Powell as Fed chair. Republican senators blocked it, threatened to oppose all Fed nominees if Trump continued. Trump backed down. Trump tried to reshape Supreme Court. Republican senators slow-walking confirmations, questioning nominees more carefully, not just automatically approving everyone. Trump tried to cut deals with China that hurt American farmers. Republican senators from agricultural states pushed back, demanded better terms, refused to support trade agreements that hurt their constituents. Republican revolt is happening across multiple issues, multiple senators, multiple ways, and Trump can't fight all of them simultaneously, can't threaten everyone, can't primary every Republican senator, doesn't have political capital, doesn't have public support, doesn't have leverage anymore. Just desperate president watching his party abandon him, watching his agenda fail, watching his presidency collapse, and declaring emergency powers won't fix it, won't restore his authority, won't make Republicans fall in line, just makes him look weaker. Think about what that means. And then there's Epstein files issue that Trump desperately wants everyone to forget. Promised to release everything. Thousands of FBI agents working on it. Full disclosure coming. But over a year later, only 12,000 documents released out of over 2 million. That's less than 1%. And deadline passed. Law required production by specific date. Trump administration violated it, broke the law, committed obstruction. Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, all of them in violation. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Dick Durbin sent bipartisan letter to Inspector General demanding investigation. How did administration that promised full disclosure fail so spectacularly? How did thousands of FBI agents working on this produce almost nothing? How did DOJ miss deadline? Was it incompetence? Was it deliberate? Was it misbehavior? Inspector General needs to find out, needs to investigate, needs to hold people accountable. Because this was an accident. This was obstruction. This was Trump protecting himself and his friends, hiding evidence of crimes, covering up connections to Epstein. And House Democrats subpoenaed Les Wexner, billionaire who funded Epstein for years. Nobody understood why. What was Wexner getting from Epstein that was worth millions? What services was Epstein providing? House wants answers, wants Wexner under oath, wants to follow the money, because money trail leads to truth, leads to everyone involved in Epstein's operation, leads to girls trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago, leads to suspicious activity reports showing billions flowing through Epstein accounts, leads to JP Morgan executives sanitizing Epstein's books, leads to whole criminal network. And Trump is terrified of where that leads, terrified of what Wexner might say under oath, terrified of what documents might reveal. That's why he's trying to distract with Venezuela emergency, with Greenland threats, with screaming at Republican senators, anything to move news cycle away from Epstein, anything to make people forget about broken promises and obstruction. But it's not working. People remember. Senators remember. Inspector General will investigate. Wexner will testify. Truth will come out. And Trump can't stop it. Now let's talk about what happens next, because Republican revolt is just beginning. War powers vote was first step. More restrictions coming. More oversight. More checks on presidential authority. Republican senators emboldened by success, by courts backing them up, by public supporting constitutional governance. They're going to push further, going to reclaim more congressional authority, going to force Trump to work with them instead of around them. And Trump will resist, will declare more emergencies, will threaten more senators, will try every authoritarian tactic he knows, but it won't work, because Republicans have decided they're not going down with his ship. They're protecting their own careers, their own political futures, and that means distancing from Trump, opposing his worst instincts, restraining his authoritarian impulses, even if he screams and threatens and declares emergencies. Venezuelan oil emergency won't hold up in court. Judges will strike it down. Trump will lose again. And Republican senators will use that loss to justify opposing more emergency declarations, to demand congressional approval for major actions, to reassert their constitutional role. Cycle will continue. Trump tries to exceed authority. Courts say no. Republicans feel safer opposing him. Trump gets weaker, tries something more extreme. Courts say no again. Republicans oppose more openly. Trump gets weaker still. Eventually, he's president in name only. Can't pass legislation, can't confirm nominees, can't take military action, can't govern at all, just serving out term until midterms when Democrats likely take control of Congress. And then impeachment becomes real possibility again. New investigations, new subpoenas, new accountability for Venezuela, for Epstein, for everything. And Trump won't have Republican senators protecting him anymore. They'll be protecting themselves, voting for impeachment to save their own careers. That's where this is heading. Republican revolt is real. War powers vote proved it. Emergency declaration shows Trump's desperation, his weakness, his inability to control his own party. He can scream at Susan Collins all he wants, can threaten senators on Truth Social, can declare emergency after emergency, but he's lost control, lost authority, lost ability to govern. And Republicans know it, see it, are acting on it, taking back their constitutional power, restraining authoritarian president, protecting democracy even if imperfectly, even if too late on some things. Better late than never. Bottom line is this: Trump declared national emergency to shield Venezuelan oil money from creditors. Claims it's about national security. Really, it's about controlling billions for oil companies, for his friends, for corruption. Republicans are revolting. 5 senators voted to restrict his war powers, more speaking out against Greenland invasion, against emergency declarations, against authoritarianism. Trump called Susan Collins and screamed profanities at her, threatened Republican senators who opposed him, but it didn't work. They're not backing down, they're standing firm. Courts will strike down emergency declaration, will say it's not legitimate emergency, will restore normal legal processes. Republicans will feel emboldened, will oppose more of Trump's agenda, will reclaim more congressional authority. Trump will get weaker, will lose more fights, will be unable to govern effectively, and Epstein files issue still hanging over everything. Trump obstructed release, violated law, protected himself and friends, Inspector General investigating, Wexner being subpoenaed, truth coming out. All of Trump's distractions can't stop it. Republican revolt is real. It's growing. It's weakening Trump every day. War powers vote was beginning. More opposition coming. More restrictions. More accountability. Trump thought he could govern like dictator. Thought he could start wars unilaterally. Thought he could declare emergencies whenever convenient. Thought Republicans would always protect him. He was wrong. They're protecting themselves now. Their careers, their political futures, and that means opposing him, restraining him, limiting his damage, until 2026 midterms, when voters deliver final judgment. This story continues. Stay tuned.